Sam George.
My chair.
What has the governor and his deputy done? What have they done?
Everything. My chair.
Including raising the debt?
Oh no. In fact, they have given death. They are apostles of death. Randy, you sit back and you look at what we were promised. First, I remember when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo introduced Bawumia to Ghanaians. He said, you remember I brought him because Kufuor brought him to help us at the Bank of Ghana. He knows how to run the economy. And he was sold to us as that. Then Bawumia came and said, trust me, I have worked at the Bank of Ghana. I know where the money is. I know the money is there. Now Ghanaians believed this scam artist, this conman, made them president and vice.
Those are strong words.
Randy.
Extremely strong words.
No, but Randy, we are in very dire states and we need to win. Randy.
Yeah, but it doesn't make them con artists.
Oh,
yes.
But by the time I finish, you realize whether they are con artists or not. Because he said the money was there. We know where the money is. And his boss said, oh, yet it's a castle and also come there. So that is what they presented to us. Now, one was made president, the other vice. And the one who said he had been at the Bank of Ghana and knew how to run the economy and had even filed 170 questions to his predecessor governor, who at the time was vice president, has now become head of economic management team. Now, there is another subcommittee of the economic management team called the economic policy team. That is made up of only 3 people. Mahmoud Bawumia, Ken Ofori-Atta, and Ernest the printer, Ernest Edison. So you have vice president, finance minister, and Bank of Ghana minister, Bank of Ghana governor. Bank of Ghana governor is responsible for monetary policy. The finance minister is responsible for fiscal policy. And the vice president as head of economic management team sits with both to ensure that we have synergy between both monetary and fiscal policy. So they have this subcommittee. Now, this triumvirate of disaster, this tripartite arrangement is the source of collapse of Ghanaian businesses and hardship that Ghanaians are facing today. Randy, yesterday, our colleague on the health committee in Parliament, or 2 days ago, said at the rate of funding, the Agenda 111 hospitals will be completed in 22 years. At the current rate of funding, 22 years. How much is one Agenda 111 hospital? 17.5 million Ghana cedis. Randy, the Bank of Ghana in 2022 alone posted a loss of 60.8 billion. 60.8 billion Ghana cedis. You know how many Agenda 111 hospitals? And there's one coming up in Ningo Pram. And I'm worried because that project has stalled for almost 6 months. Randy, that 60.8 billion would have built 3,474 Agenda 111 hospitals completed. The money that they wasted in 1 year would have built 3,000. The whole country, how many districts do we have? Less than 260 or about 260. So every district would have had an Agenda 111. Look, if you do by 3,000, we would have had more than 100 district hospitals in every district. That is the gravity and enormity of the mismanagement of Ernest the printer, Ken the saint, and Bawumia the liar. Randy, and they have created this mess, and they boldly wear white and come to Parliament and come and read this to us and tell us there is nothing wrong with the country. How you can post such losses and still think that as a governor of the Bank of Ghana, you have credibility to stay at post. People must have a conscience in this country. You have posted a negative equity equity of 55.1 billion. Meaning a car where they look, your equity, your value, the value, government's value as single shareholder in the Bank of Ghana is in the negative 55.1 billion Ghana cedis. Randy, we have gone to the IMF with all the conditionalities, with all the debt defaults. We are going there for 3 billion over 3 years. 3 billion over 3 years. And in 1 year, our Bank of Ghana can blow and mismanage and lose 6 billion. Double what we are hoping to get in 3 years from the IMF. What kind of managers do we have? And Randy, it is not as though we don't have the legislation and the laws in place. The Bank of Ghana Act is clear, as amended by Parliament, Section 37, that the moment you hit the threshold of 5% of lending to government, the Bank of Ghana governor must notify Parliament. The finance minister must notify Parliament. It is there in the Act. So there is legislation for this. It's not as though we are working in a vacuum. I've heard people say, oh, we need to strengthen the legislation. Randy, we don't need to strengthen the legislation. We just need people who will behave as patriots and appreciate and respect legislation in this country. The law is clear. Bank of Ghana, in 2002, President Kufuor introduced the 10% cap on financing to government. In 2016, under John Mahama, we dropped that from 10% to 5%. That every year, the Bank of Ghana can only borrow to the government 5%, maximum of 5% of its total earnings from the previous year. In 2021, the Bank of Ghana borrowed around 35 billion to the government of Ghana. 35 billion. In 2022, they borrowed another 45 billion, totaling 80 billion in 2 years. But Randy, to appreciate this, you ask yourself, to know if the 35 billion in 2021 was within the law, you need to know how much government's earnings in 2020 was. Government earnings in 2020 was just 55 billion. 5% of that should have been around 2.8 billion. And instead of giving them a ceiling of 2.8 billion, you borrow, you print, and as the printer, you print and borrow 35 billion to the government of Ghana and fail to notify Parliament when you hit the 2.8 billion. You go beyond your approved threshold by over 1,000%. I mean, and they do this with impunity, and it doesn't end there. In 2021, government's total revenue was 75 billion. 5% of that will not exceed 3.8 billion. Yet you go and borrow another 45 billion. Because you are just there and printing the money. We have a governor of the bank who does not understand that his role is to supervise our banking sector and ensure that our international reserves are sufficient enough to protect us in our time of despair, and to ensure that we have a healthy banking system. He sees himself as a printer. Maybe we should open a new office for him at Newtown. Because the governor of the Bank of Ghana prints more money than the printers at Newtown print calendars. Printing money. How then don't we have inflation hovering at 45% and above? Randy, and you see, they turn around and tell us things are tough. This same Bank of Ghana, in 2022, under Ernest Addison, Randy, motor vehicle maintenance and running for 2022, 131.6 million Ghana cedis. That is 1.3 trillion. Baba, how many cars do they have? I'm sure even Toyota Ghana, Gamut, their total trade for 2022 was not up to 131 million Ghana cedis. The total value of servicing and maintenance that they did was not up to 131 million Ghana cedis. But our Bank of Ghana claims that they serviced and maintained vehicles 131 million. That will build 7.5 Agenda 111 hospitals. It will give Ningo Pram Pram a district hospital. It will give your constituency Kwabre. You don't have a district hospital. Yeah, they're now building one for you. As part of Agenda 111. Yes, it would have completed it. Have they completed it?
80%.
But it has stalled. The contractor has not been on site for 3 months. No contractor has been. Because they're not getting payment. By now, it would have completed. They should have completed in April 2021 per the president's own directive. 7.5 of them. Bank of Ghana blew that money buying, maintaining cars, buying engine oil, and doing servicing. Randy, in the same 2022, they spent 97.4 million Ghana cedis on travel. Afangbe, Aya London. 97.4 million Ghana cedis. That would have completed 5.5 of the Agenda 111 hospitals. I mean, did the Bank of Ghana carry out an expedition to space? Did they go exploring Saturn for land for their new sites? I mean, you ask yourself, how can the Bank of Ghana, when you are posting such gargantuan, unprecedented losses, be spending almost 100 million Ghana cedis on travel in 1 year? Now it's a competition between the president and the governor of the Bank of Ghana who travels more. Randy, they paid themselves a mismanagement fee. They paid themselves a failure fee. GFA has coefficient. Bank of Ghana, they have mismanagement. They mismanaged and collapsed the financial sector, and they paid themselves 8.6 million Ghana cedis as directors' fees. 8.6 million. And maybe if I have another bite, I'll list all the directors of the Bank of Ghana. The people who see the people who chop 8.6 million Ghana cedis in 1 year under NS the printer. They spent 357.9 million Ghana cedis, Randy, on banking supervision. You, the bank, and your job to supervise other banks, you spent almost 400 million Ghana cedis that you are supervising other banks.
It costs money to do that. There are expenses associated with that.
Does this Bank of Ghana look like they can do banking supervision?
But that's their mandate. They've been doing.
But they failed on all their mandates, and they are buying us car to even fail on their mandate.
Okay, so let me show you something.
I was going to do one more and end. Okay. Randy, they spent 287.8 million Ghana cedis on undisclosed expenditure. I mean, 287 million, and the worst of all, our new head office. You are running a loss of $6 billion, and then we as a country are going for 3 billion over 3 years. In 1 year, we are getting about this first year we're supposed to get about 1.4 billion, and then 600 and then 800. Randy, the Bank of Ghana is spending $250 million, $250 million to build a new head office. What is wrong with the head office that they have? What is wrong with that head office? That when you are posting losses, a yearly loss of $6 billion, you are spending $250 million to go and build a new headquarters. The land, the Bank of Ghana doesn't own it. They are leasing the land. Randy, ask yourself that we must do comparisons, because under John Mahama, and I end here, under John Mahama, one oil well in 2016, the Bank of Ghana posted profits of over 700 million Ghana cedis. Profits under John Mahama in an election year. In 2016 election year, the amount of money the Bank of Ghana borrowed to the government of John Mahama was 0%, 0 Ghana cedi.
Lent.
Yes, lending to the 0 Ghana cedis. 0% financing to the government in an election year. Discipline. In 2016, the same Bank of Ghana used part of their profits to build a Bank of Ghana hospital, which was what saved Akufo-Addo's appointees who got COVID. That is where they went for treatment. Now, under Akufo-Addo, we're not even in an election year in 2022. He has 4 times the oil revenues, 3 oil wells. He's posting a loss of $6 billion, 60.8 billion Ghana cedis. and he's going to build $250 million head office. Why?
Dedi kama amena PENDREAM TV ase. Now so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Ah nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.